My first store was in a little arcade right behind the main street. I thought it was the perfect place. The rent was reasonable. There were a lot of families at the beach across the road. I could pop a sign out on the main road and I would be set. On one side of my store was a kids' talent agency, and the other shop front on the other side was a family photographer. I mean, could there be a more perfect place for a baby and kids shop? Every day for years, I would write on a chalkboard on an A-frame sign and I would walk it outside around the corner to the main street. And I thought I was doing a great job because I wrote something different on that board every single day. And eventually, when I had team members come on, it was always fun to see the things that we would come up with. Sometimes they were little memes, sometimes they were things about the weather, but they were always fun. It was actually a joy every single morning writing on that chalkboard. This board as an A-frame was pretty heavy because it was going out on the street. It was like a super duper industrial heavy thing. So dragging it around to the main road, I'm going to say it was not the most fun thing in the world. But we did it because for me, I thought that was a really key piece of marketing for us. Now that A-frame chalkboard sign used to sit out the front of a small grocery store. So we were in an arcade and in front of our store, like our back of our shop, backed on to a small grocery store. People were going past every single day, thousands of people. There was also a bus stop next to the grocery store. So literally thousands of, maybe tens of thousands of people would see that sign every single day. Let me just be clear, would go past that sign every single day. But I cannot tell you how many times people would come in years after we'd opened and say, "Oh, did you just open?" And I would explain, "Well, no, we've been here for years." And they would say, "Oh, I just saw your sign out the front." And then I would always say, "Well, that sign," I got a little bit snarky after a while. I'd be like, "Well, that sign has been out there every single day for the last however many years." It actually got quite frustrating because I would think to myself when people would come in, are these people just blind? That's until just recently, I did the exact same thing. I moved here to the beach around 18 months ago. So for 18 months, I have been walking past the exact same stores in a little shopping strip. Just recently, I was looking for a gift to take to a friend who lives in America. And so I walked down the street and I realized that there was a store that I didn't even know that it existed. So I was on a street that I walk through regularly. It is not a back street. It is not somewhere obscure. It's not even a street. It's the main shopping strip in my area that I walk or ride down, if not every day, probably 5 times a week. And here was this store right there. They have a beautiful window display. They have a gorgeous fit out. From what I could see through the glass, when I first went past, it was exactly the kind of place that I would shop and the kinds of products I would buy. But for 18 months, I walked straight past that store. Now, not because I wasn't their customer. I 100% was their customer. I walked past it because I wasn't present. I was busy. I was in my own head. I was mentally reviewing the shopping list of all the things I had to buy, or I was on my way to grab some food. And it never quite registered as somewhere that I needed to go right now. And then the day when I actually went in, the store was exactly as good as it looked from the outside. The owner was warm. They were really knowledgeable about their products. They clearly cared very deeply and were passionate about what they sold. Everything in the store was beautiful. I did buy something and I left thinking, why did I wait so long to go into that shop? Why did I not even realize it was there? Hey there, and welcome back to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where we dig into the nitty-gritty of understanding exactly what it takes to run and grow a profitable retail or e-commerce business. So a few weeks later, I actually ran into that store owner at an event and we got to talking because I love her stuff. And hey, if you've ever been around me, you'll know that if you are talking business with me and you're talking retail, I will talk your ear off. So we got to talking and I found out that she had been in that location for nearly 3 years. 3 years on a street that I was going up and down nearly every single day. And she was selling something that I would have bought at any point in those 3 years. It was such a mental slap in the face that I started I was literally writing this podcast episode in my head because all I could think about was, oh, I wasn't blind. I just didn't need the thing. In that moment, I realized I was exactly like all those customers who used to walk past my A-frame sign until I actually needed the thing. And until I actually needed the thing, I wasn't even aware that that shop existed. I know that there is a thing called the reticular activation system. It's the thing that says, hey, if you buy a brand new car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. This is the same thing. Until you need the thing, the shop doesn't appear. But I digress. So I asked her, how was business going? Because you know that I am 100% poke my nose in everybody else's business. And she did what a lot of store owners do, and she gave me the version that sounded okay. She was ticking along, things are getting by, reasonable busy season, hoping that the next season would be a little bit stronger. And you know me, I love to just jump into business strategy with anyone who will talk to me. And so I asked her what she was doing for marketing. And she told me that she posted on Instagram when she had the time. She'd done some letterbox drops. I love me a good letterbox drop, but she did them when she first opened. And she'd been thinking about starting an email list for a while, but she hadn't quite got there yet because, after all, this is a tourist area. So a lot of people would never actually come back and shop with her. And I just thought, here is an incredible business. Here is a genuinely lovely person with a beautiful range of products, an owner that clearly cares deeply about her products, her customers, what she does. And there are so many people like me who doesn't even know that she exists. She was one of these world's best kept secrets. And the thing about being the world's best kept secret, it almost sounds like a compliment. It has that quality to it. It has this sense of being a hidden gem, like a secret, an undiscovered treasure. There's something that almost feels romantic about it. But I remember people walking into my store when I first opened and people saying that, and I thought it was a compliment. But it is not a compliment. It's actually a really big problem. And I want to talk about what that actually costs, being the world's best kept secret, because I don't think most store owners who are in that position ever sit down and truly work out the number. And if you've been listening to this podcast before, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you will know that I love me some math about money. So we're going to talk about money. Let me paint you a picture. I'm going to break this down extremely simple because if you've listened to the podcast, that Sal is not very good at doing air math in my head. I am perfectly fine on paper. Give me a calculator. I'm good. Give me a spreadsheet. Great. In my head, not so much, especially when I'm doing this on the fly on a podcast. So I'm going to break these down into some really simple numbers. Imagine your retail or e-commerce store is doing 100 transactions a week. I can work with the number 100 in my head. Imagine if that more people knew that you existed. Let's say that you get 30 extra sales a week because you do more marketing, because more people know that you existed. So that's not a huge transformation from 100 to 130. It's literally 4 extra sales a day to people who are already looking for what you sell and simply don't know that you exist. Let's say you have an average transaction value of $80, which from what I've seen for independent retailers, that's actually quite conservative. I love you guys. You tend to sit somewhere up around 100, sometimes 120, but let's call it 80 because some of you might have smaller item things, but 80. So we have 30 extra sales at $80 is $2,400 a week. That is around about $10,000 a month, which is $120,000 a year. So if you struggle to follow along with my math, just listening to a podcast, totally okay. I completely get it. Let me break this down. If you were doing 100 transactions a week and you got just 4 extra sales a day and your average order value is $80, those 4 extra sales equate to $120,000 a year. That, my friends, is the cost of invisibility. That is the cost of not being seen by people who would happily buy from you if they knew that you existed. That is an actual cost of being the world's best kept secret. $120,000 a year being left on the table, not because you haven't got good products, not because nobody's buying, but simply because they don't know that you exist. Now, I know some of you are thinking, but Sal, I try. I'm not invisible. I've got a website. I post on Instagram. I really do try when it comes to marketing. And I'm glad that you're trying, but I'm also here to push you. Because when it comes to trying marketing and when it comes to existing and being seen, those are two different things. Yes, you can exist, but being seen and having a presence and creating a reason for someone to come in and buy with you, whether that is online or in store, that is a completely different concept. My store in my arcade existed. This store that I'm telling you about existed. This store that I bought from has beautiful window displays. They have a sign. Technically, they're visible to hundreds, probably even millions of people who walk down that strip every single year because it's a very high tourist area. Technically visible to anyone who walked past, but still, I'm in retail and I didn't go in for nearly 2 years. So visibility is not the same as a presence. Visibility is when somebody who is a potential customer, who wants what you sell, who would already choose you, knows that you are there and knows that they have a reason to come in and shop now. That is a very different thing. And that is what most store owners are missing. Not the presence, but the reason. They have the website. They might have a shop front. They have the email list. They have the social media. But what they don't have is a reason for people to buy. So here's the observation that I keep coming back to. And I've been sitting with this for a long time. Most of the store owners I've worked with, and I have worked with literally thousands of store owners from Australia, New Zealand, Europe, North America, South Africa, Nigeria, like a lot of countries. Most of them are not invisible, not because they don't care about marketing. They're invisible because they have never sat down to think about the real cost that being invisible or being the world's best kept secret is actually costing. And there is this belief that runs underneath a lot of independent retailers, and I think it comes from a very genuinely good place, that if you have a good enough product, if you have great service, the right customers will find you. That quality will speak for itself, and that word of mouth will be enough. But if you feel like you aren't getting the sales that you want, and that's what you're relying on, then that's not true, is it? Then there's the second guessing. That is when you are showing up, when you are promoting, when you're putting yourself out there, but you feel like you're being a little bit pushy. It starts to feel like you're trying to chase the sale rather than people coming to you and buying. It starts to feel like you've become a used car salesman. And I understand that feeling. I've had it myself. There is really something quite uncomfortable about saying loudly and more times than you ever feel comfortable, come and buy from me. I mean, still to this day, when I launch a product and I see the emails that say, buy this thing, here's why you should buy this thing, even I still inwardly think, is that too many? Have I hit too hard? The answer, my friends, is no. You have to say to people, come and spend your money here. Here's why you should choose me over every other option that you have available right now. It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people who got into retail. They get into retail because they love the product. They love people. They want to build something that they believe in. They want to serve their customers. But here's what I want you to hear. That discomfort, as real and as 100% understandable as it is, it's not free. It actually has a price tag. And I've just shown you roughly what that can cost. Every time you don't send that email because you don't want to bother people, there are customers who would have bought something from you that week who simply didn't think to. They are that one step closer to the 4 extra sales that will get you the $120,000. Every time you don't feel like posting on social media because it feels like you have already talked about this product enough, I guarantee you that there are people who are scrolling to your competitors who would have chosen you, but they're buying from them. Every time you put off that marketing campaign because there's something more urgent to deal with, the month is going to get quieter than it needed to be. You are not going to get one step closer to the 4 sales that get you the $120,000. And then the month ends and you look at the numbers and it feels inexplicable. You go into a Facebook group and you say, oh, is anybody else experiencing the sales being down? And 200 people will tell you, yes, it's the economy. And then what happens? You feel safe and nothing changes. I want to tell you what I've observed over the store owners who break out of this, because we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about the cost of staying invisible. We've talked about the fear of getting yourself out there because you feel like it might be pushy, the fear of bothering people, the fear of asking for the sale. The people who get past this aren't superheroes. It's not that they suddenly become comfortable being expert rock star marketers. It's not that they wake up one day with a completely different personality and start confidently putting out campaigns to the world. What actually shifts, and I've seen this with enough people to know that this is a pattern, is that they stopped thinking about marketing as a job and they started thinking about marketing as a service to their customer. Because here's the other side of my story about the woman with the beautiful homeware shop, is when I finally went into that shop and bought something, I loved it. I was genuinely delighted by the entire experience. I left thinking about the 2 years that I'd walked past without going in, and I was a little bit frustrated actually, not at her, but because I knew the feeling that she probably had when I said, oh, did you just open? But also of the gifts that I could have. I'm a bit of a gift giver. And so I sit there and think, oh, but I could have given, it's the hindsight thing. I could have given that gift to somebody else. I would have bought from her so many times over the past nearly 2 years. I was exactly her customer, but she didn't show up for me. Probably not because she didn't want to. I mean, she said that she was posting on social media and she said that she did the letterbox drops when she first opened. But I don't think she knew how to make me see her. She was relying on the presence of the physical store to get her the customers. But the customers who don't know about you aren't waiting somewhere else. They're happily finding what they need from your competitors. They might be buying inferior versions of what you sell, or they might be buying from businesses whose customer service is way worse than yours. But you know what those businesses are doing? They're shouting a lot louder than you are. And all because your customers don't know that you exist. And when you think about it that way, when you stand on the other side of the equation, the discomfort of marketing starts to feel less important than the cost of staying quiet, especially when we can put a number on it. So let's talk about what changes when you actually start marketing consistently. Because the store owners that become more visible, they all say it's the same, let's call it shift. It stops feeling like chasing. Some people have literally said it's like winning the lottery. It stops feeling like chasing the sale. It stops feeling like you are pushing, and it starts to feel like you are connecting, like something is right. Emails stop feeling like a horrible chore on your to-do list and an interruption, and they start feeling like conversations. They start feeling like a way to talk to your customers. Campaigns stop feel like you are begging for the sale and start to feel like you're giving people a reason to come and shop with you. And that was something that they already wanted to do. We can't make people buy stuff if they don't want to buy it. That's all on them. But what we can do is show up and give them a reason to buy it. And the revenue that comes when you do that, and this is the part that matters because we need money to make a business, the revenue starts to feel less random. And I won't say this happens immediately, although when this happens in a sudden burst, it does feel like you've won the lottery. And I can say that because I've seen this happen over and over again. But when we do this consistently, over weeks, over months, consistent, purposeful marketing, the roller coaster starts to flatten out, the revenue roller coaster. The months that you wish didn't exist, they actually stop being horrible and start to be like, months, mediocre months. Mediocre months that are currently start become decent months, and decent months start to really stack into something that is where you make a huge amount of money. Because that's what visibility does when it's consistent. It doesn't just create sales, it creates predictability. And predictability, knowing roughly what's coming in, knowing that when you run a campaign, you will make this much money on average, that helps you plan your orders. It helps you be able to make decisions with confidence rather than looking at how much money is in the bank right now. And that is worth more than any single campaign could ever be. For me, that peace of mind, that confidence, that ability to plan ahead is worth so much more. And that is what the store owner in my local area was missing. It wasn't product. It wasn't passion. It wasn't a beautiful store fit out. It was just consistent, deliberate, purposeful practice of marketing to make sure that the people who could be her customers knew to come to her. Which brings me to what I would love to tell you about today. I told you last week about the Marketing That Works bootcamp, and I want to go a little bit deeper into that today because I think the connection between what we've just been talking about and what this bootcamp actually does is kind of intertwined and important to understand. The bootcamp is built around this singular core shift to make your life easier, and that is that hit and miss marketing isn't going to give you consistent sales. Consistent, predictable sales almost, and when I say sales, I don't mean discounting, I mean orders, revenue. It almost always comes from having a campaign, a real intentional campaign, one that gives every email a reason, one that gives you every social post a direction, one that gives your customers a clear reason to buy from you right now. And that, my friends, I can tell you, makes marketing so much easier. And here's what I see constantly. Store owners who are posting, who are doing a little bit on TikTok, a little bit on Instagram, a little bit on Facebook, a little bit on Google Ads, and they feel like they should be doing more. But they don't actually know what more looks like. And the reason that it all feels so exhausting and disconnected is because none of that is being driven by a purpose. It is just activity. And activity without a purpose is just noise. And that is what this bootcamp helps fix. We are not looking at what is working in the algorithm right now. We are looking at real, practical, this is what's been getting in the way, and here's what you need to change if you want your marketing to work. It is a live, paid bootcamp. We do it over 4 sessions, and it is designed specifically for established retail and e-commerce store owners who are tired of marketing that feels hit and miss. Tired of, I call it throwing the marketing spaghetti at the wall and crossing your fingers and hoping that something sticks. If you are ready to understand what you need to change in your marketing, then this is for you. If you've heard yourself when I talked about the revenue roller coaster, if you've been in those Facebook groups asking if people's sales are down, if you've been posting and emailing and not getting the consistent results that you know that your business is capable, this, my friends, is for you. Registration is only open for 2 weeks. And that is the reality of a live event. It starts when it starts. After that, doors will close, and I don't know if I'll be running it again this year. So if you've been thinking that you need some help with your marketing, now is the time to stop thinking and start doing something about it. The link will be in the show notes. You can register over at marketingthatworksbootcamp.com. Yes, I love me. It does what it says on the box, marketingthatworksbootcamp.com. Go and take a look, see what we cover, and if that sounds exactly what your business needs right now, which I think it probably is, go and get yourself registered. Because the retailers who break that visibility problem, and I know when you do that, you'll start to step off the revenue roller coaster. The retailers who do this start to get more consistent results from their marketing. And the people who do that are the ones who decided to do something about their marketing. They're the ones who decided that being the world's best kept secret was actually costing them way too much money. Alrighty, that's it for today's episode. I don't want you to be the world's best kept secret. Let's fix that over at the marketingthatworksbootcamp.com. I'll see you in there. So that's a wrap. I'd love to hear what insight you've gotten from this episode and how you're going to put it into action. If you're a social kind of person, follow me at @TheSelenaKnight and make sure to leave a comment and let me know. And if this episode made you think a little bit differently, or gave you some inspiration, or perhaps gave you the kick that you needed to take action, then please take a couple of minutes to leave me a review on your platform of choice. Because the more reviews the show gets, the more independent retail and e-commerce stores just like yours that we can help to scale. And when that happens, it's a win for you, a win for your community, and a win for your customers.